of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all. So with deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this wonderful land of ours, I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face and that affects so many aspects of our lives, our personal relationships, our family relationships, our community relations, our politics, our business affairs. Not one aspect of our lives isn't touched by the character issue. And we're in a crisis. We have been for some time, because we've been in the age of egocentricity, entitlement, a culture of narcissism. And is it any wonder that we have so much character disturbance? Is it any wonder that our families don't hold together, that our marriages fall apart, that our community relations are strained, that we've even lost, really, a sense of community, that business has become what it has become in some areas, and that there is so much tension and friction? The world is a powder keg, once again, just ready to explode. In fact, it already has been exploding in so many areas, and so much corruption in so many areas, especially political corruption. Now, it's not like this kind of stuff hasn't happened before, but it's always been related to character. And we've had periods of what some people call greatness in this land of ours, periods of greatness, times when we seem to better live up to our best ideals. And then we've had times of real darkness. You see, the foundation of a free society depends upon character. This is the reason you hear the theme song play at the beginning and the end of the program. A song that my wife and I wrote. Can't believe it, some 18 years ago now. It's amazing to me. But we wrote it because we realized the interdependence of freedom and character. The founders knew this. Give people with a solid moral compass, people who are spiritually well-grounded, give those people maximum freedom, freedom from interference of one type or another, freedom from oppression. Let such people enjoy as much freedom as possible, and they will not only prosper themselves, but they will create wondrous opportunities for others. But when individuals are of poor character, don't know how to live, especially with their fellow human beings, then there's always the invitation for government to try and control things. And the laws and limits and restrictions that they try to impose almost always only impact decent folks who obey the rules anyway. Because folks who don't obey the rules don't pay any attention to the rules that we write. So freedom is impacted, our freedoms. It's an endless cycle. It's a no-win deal. So our task is to make character matter again, and that's why this program is called Character Matters. And that's why I've spent the better part of the last 30 plus years of my professional career, I'm semi-retired now, writing about and talking about character matters. In my books, In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, my book, Character Disturbance, The Phenomenon of Our Age, my book, The Judas Syndrome, the only book that I've tailored to the Christian faith community, and my book, How Did We End Up Here, co-authored with Dr. Kathy Armistead. All bestsellers and all available on Amazon. And also I write for the blog, manipulative-people.com or drgeorgesimon.com. You can reach my work at either URL, that's drgeorgesimon.com or manipulative-people.com. Timely articles on how to navigate your way through this character-disturbed world of ours. And then this program. And if you have a question or a concern or just a situation you'd like to talk about, maybe a story you'd like to share that you think will interest the audience, we are live this evening. It is Sunday, January the 7th, 2018. Happy New Year, everyone. And we are, as I mentioned, live, and you can call in at 501-258-8326. That's 501-258-8326 if you have a question you want to ask me or you have a situation you think our audience would be interested in hearing about, or maybe you just have some general issues you'd like to discuss. Give us a call at 501-258-8326. Well, it's a new year. And I mentioned on a program that aired New Year's Eve evening that the program would be taking a different direction this year. It's a new year, time for kind of a reorientation, maybe a reassessment of our of what we're doing here or trying to do here on Character Matters. We are not going to be restricting anyone from calling in and talking about what they need to talk about. But I'm really going to broaden the focus of the program. And even though it might offend some folks, I'm going to be more unabashedly speaking of character issues, and I'm going to use this word carefully, in a more spiritual vein. We are indeed spiritual creatures. Human beings have a unique composition among all the other creatures. We have the most evolved minds. And the essence of what it is to be human, to be truly human. And what we need to do to nurture that aspect of ourselves is going to become the greater focus of this program. Now, I'm not here to promote any kind of religious affiliation or faith, not here to promote any kind of religion, not even here to promote religion per se. Much of the same as folks who use the very commonly known 12-step programs, which at their heart, every single one of those programs, based on the AA model, every single one of those 12-step programs is at heart, fundamentally, a character-building program. Matter of fact, that word is built into a couple of the steps. Program makes no mistake. And it talks in relatively broad terms about a person's relationship to a higher power. And it's broad. It's a broad concept. It's given as a broad concept on purpose, even though the term God is used occasionally. Because we have to reckon with the fact that we are part of something much bigger. You know, Carl Sagan is famous for pointing out that you don't have to get very far from the Earth. The universe, the cosmic scale is unbelievable. We're talking distances and objects and whatnot that are just hard to even imagine. And we're truly a speck in the big picture. But Carl Sagan is famous for pointing out, that it doesn't take long as you're traveling away from the Earth. It doesn't take long at all, at least when you're talking cosmic scale. It doesn't take very long at all before you lose the ability to see any signs whatsoever that there's anything going on this planet at all, other than perhaps weather patterns. No signs of life. No signs that creatures inhabit the place. It doesn't take very long at all. In the grand scheme of things, we're a speck. But we're a significant speck. And human beings are a significant part of this miracle of creation, this miracle of life that exists on this planet, as far as we know. Although we suspect that the ingredients for life could easily exist, or life as we know it. The ingredients for life as we know it could exist on a number of other places. As far as we know, this is the only place in this vast, vast universe that we do know it exists. It's a miracle. And it behooves us all to take a broader view, to see the bigger picture, to realize that we have the power to sustain ourselves and prosper. We also have the power to destroy. And right now, the world as we know it is a tinderbox. And largely because we have people of seriously, significantly flawed character at the helm of certain states. And we have cultures that foster, unfortunately, all manner of character disturbance. That has to change. It has to change. If we're going to make it, all of that has to change. And that's the broader scope this program is going to take. And I really would like, we have a very diverse audience out there. A learned audience, a principled audience, and an international audience. So I would really encourage those of you listening and have thought about calling in, who have any thoughts on what it is to do at the start of this new year to reshape things, to do our small part, to do a part, to be a part of creating a new order of things, a healthier, more compassionate, more loving, more concerned order of things. We have it within our power right now to ensure the well-being. There's enough wealth and there's enough technology at our disposal. We've learned enough that we could take care of everybody. That we could cure a lot more disease and prevent a lot more disease than we're doing. See to it that folks are well educated, well fed, well cared for medically. There's so much we can do. And yet, we live in a world with so much discord, so much animosity brewing, because so many folks are disadvantaged in one way or another. And then on the personal level, we hurt each other so brutally. I've worked as a therapist for many, many years now. It never ceases to amaze me the kinds of behaviors that people will allow themselves to do in their most intimate relationships. The things that they will give themselves permissions to do. And there are some boundaries, that once you cross them, it's almost impossible to repair the damage. I know some couples, for example, who have said the most vile things to one another, who have treated each other in the most shameless way. And then they come, perhaps in a desperate attempt to salvage things at the 11th hour. They come to see a counselor of one type or another and expect that the damage is really going to be repaired. Or maybe they actually kind of know better and are just going through the motions. But the problem always lies with character, because it takes a certain kind of character to allow oneself to cross certain boundaries in the first place. So when those hateful things are said, those ugly names called, those betrayals committed, it says something. It has to say something. who we are matters. And what our relationship is to some higher entity or authority, even if it's just the moral standards that we would like to see as ideal, that governs everything. So at heart, the disease that is affecting us right now and causing our character problems is not just psychological, is not just characterological, but at heart it is spiritual too. And the very fact that these things happen in the homes and in the lives of individuals who may, in fact, go to church on Sunday in one denomination or another and participate in other activities, reveals how much more fundamental and how much deeper our spirituality has to go than just what we profess on our lips to be our individual creed. One of the points I'm trying to make in the Judas syndrome, the reason for the title, is that just as the famous character Judas betrayed an equally famous character with his kiss, he revealed his lack of faith in this person through his actions. It wouldn't have mattered what he said, but his actions betrayed his lack of faith. If he had really put his trust in the person, really understood what Jesus was advocating, and really taken his message to heart, he couldn't possibly have done what he had done. And we're told that when he realized what he'd done, he took his own life. Well, just like that kind of scenario, we betray our own lack of genuine faith and our own lack of genuine adherence to and embrace of the principles that most of our faiths advocate. We betray that with our actions. Our actions, as the old adage goes, speak much, much louder than words. Talk is cheap. So that's why I wrote the Judas Syndrome. I directed it toward members of the faith community to which I ascribe. Believe me, I've tried, folks. I have tried to find fault. Because I am by nature a skeptic. I'm a scientist, and by nature scientists are supposed to be skeptics. If you want to know what's true, if you really want to know what's true, if truth is what you're after, genuine knowledge without distortion, you want to know what's real, then you've got to maintain skepticism even when you think you found something. Because in order to be sure, you really need to try and debunk your own theories, which is not something scientists do these days, unfortunately. Fortunately, even science itself has become severely corrupted. And I'm using the word carefully here. I'm not exaggerating. Severely corrupted. One of the worst things that has happened in that regard is that because so many institutions and organizations are so dependent upon funding from various grants, and because they know what the grantors, what the grant conferrers want, they go shopping for data, or they produce data they know will get them monetary awards. Or they have other agendas that drive them, like I'm going to just use this as an example. I don't mean to pick on drug companies, but if they really see a profit out there in a particular drug, and they are really wanting the evidence to stack up in their favor and to minimize any way to detect the risks involved with using a particular medicine, there are all kinds of ways to skew both the research and the data. All kinds of ways. And only later do facts come out that indicate that perhaps something really serious was overlooked or misrepresented, and then the drug gets taken off the market. But in the meantime, there's many, many dollars to be made. So even our science has become corrupted. Everything has become corrupted, and it goes to the character issue, which is what everything comes back to that. Everything. So I am by nature a skeptic. So I looked. I can't find anything flawed. In not only what Jesus taught, but what he meant by so many of the things that he said, and what he exemplified in his own life through his actions. Perhaps the world's greatest lover, and that was his message to us. A real simple command, set of commands. However you see him, however you see it, however you see her, however you see that greater reality, you must have the utmost respect for that greater reality, and you have to love and embrace that reality with everything you've got. You have got to know that you come from dust, and that your very existence is an absolute miracle. You didn't earn it. You didn't ask for it, but you got it, and it's a wondrous gift. The only question becomes, how will you regard the gift, and then what will you offer in return? That is the heart of good spirituality. It's not in all the rituals and rubrics of organized practice. It's not in any of that. It's in how you live and treat one another. And the message is simple. Love with everything you've got. Love the instigator, if you will, of all of this, the creator of all of this, however you want to see it. Certainly wasn't you. And your fellow human beings as you would wish to be loved yourself. Unreservedly. And I believe what he proclaimed, and that is that He demonstrated that kind of self-emptying love by his very life and example. As I said, as a skeptic, scientist, I've tried in the past many times to find some fault, because so much of the advice is completely impractical and doesn't make any rational sense. Do good to those who do bad to you. How rational is that? It doesn't seem to match our daily experience or the practicality of what experience has taught us. But the deeper you look, the more you find the wisdom is in those words. We are not going to change the world with weapons, with strength, with might, coercion, threats. Things last for a while and then they explode again. We delude ourselves. We only think that we have secured for ourselves peace and understanding. Peace and understanding only comes with loving embrace. It only comes that way. It's the greatest force on earth. The greatest force there is. It's the greatest force in the universe. We have to unleash it. First, we have to get ourselves in the kind of emotional and psychological and spiritual shape where we know how to show it and are motivated to show it to others. It all starts with us. There's a song that we sing sometimes. I remember when it first came out. It was during one of the Olympic years. Let There Be Peace on Earth. It's one of my favorites. And let it begin with me. You want to be, if you want to make the changes in yourself that you want to see in the world. Love is by nature attractive. Now, some people will think, as I'm talking about this, some people might think that what I'm advocating is that people put up with all kinds of mistreatment. Oh no, that's not at all what I'm advocating. If you care about yourself, you need to do your level best to make sure that you're well taken care of. Sometimes that means resting yourself from situations that are abusive. But what we do in response matters. What we do in response, how we respond to the others in our life, matters. And when we're not responding in love, we become part of the problem. It's really just that simple. So many times, people hurt us. And when they do, how we deal with it really, really matters. I know that there are some of you out there who have dealt with some really bad situations. I know that there are some of you who have been in relationships that were both exploitative and abusive, and that the situation took a toll on you, emotionally, psychologically, maybe even physically, and maybe even spiritually. Maybe the situation was so bad that it even led to a crisis of faith. And if you've been in a situation like that and you want to talk about it, you can give us a call at 501-258-8326. That's 501-258-8326. I'll be happy to take your call. But we're not going to change things, even in our relationships, by a kind of tit-for-tat kind of retaliation. Yes, we take care of ourselves, but we also do our best to do no harm and to wish nothing but well for others. It's a tough order. It's a very simple prescription. It's a very hard thing to do. But as I mentioned earlier, I can't find any fault with that advice. So I do my level best to follow what those in the first days of the movement called the way. There was a time when there wasn't division among the Christian faith community. There were only those following the way. And what was the way? Oh, the way was the way of love and understanding and forgiveness. That was the way. And that way of living changed the face of the earth. It changed everything. Then, unfortunately, as it was probably destiny, it became institutionalized. The movement turned into a temporal power. Other concerns took over. It became an instrument for other things. And I think it can be fairly said that we truly lost our way because we lost the way of living as an understanding of what it means to be a member of this church. Now, I'm here to tell you that in my profession of psychology, I know many who will assert, and they'll present data to back it up, I know many who will assert that you can come to an appreciation for certain principles of living without believing in some kind of higher power. You can develop a moral code based on practicality. But my years of experience and my inner wisdom voice has taught me that for all the benefits of practical decency of behavior, for all the practical benefits of behaving decently, that bigger picture is so important to matters of the heart. Seeing that we're all in this together and that we owe one another and we owe ourselves a wider view of what's going on here, it changes our outlook, and it changes our way of thinking things when we open ourselves up to a greater awareness. You know, some poo-poo others for their interest in caring for the planet. I don't care whether you're a skeptic about such things as man-made climate change and whatnot. I don't care if you're a skeptic with regard to the benefits or the advisability or the necessity of such things as recycling and stuff like that. The point is where your heart is, and whether or not you can, with any compassionate concern for the other, whether the other is this earth and its abundant gifts that sustain life, or the other is just your neighbor or some higher power. Regardless, your relationship to that other reveals the condition of your heart and soul. And if you're one of those who can, without compunction, trash, destroy, overly abuse, pillage, if you're one of those that can do that, if you have the heart for that, I promise you there will be other aspects of your character causing trouble too. When we're not right of heart, when we're not well grounded spiritually, bad things happen. In fact, there may be only one ailment that afflicts mankind, and that is that hardness of heart. That self-centered, I just don't care, I'll do what I have to do to please myself and to take care of myself, and the heck with everything else. And that tendency is in us all to one extent or another. So at any given moment, with any decision that we face, if we're only thinking about ourselves, there's bound to be trouble. Now, I don't mean to trivialize, by the way, the agony that some very conscientious folks go through. The extraordinary agony that some folks have had to go through when they are considering all these bigger picture things as they try to wrest themselves from a very bad situation. I know what a hell that can be. I know, for example, all too many spouses who are so concerned with themselves, with the welfare of their children, both pre and post separation from an abusive partner. They were literally being tortured inside with doubts about what the right course of action would be to take. And my hat's off to those who endured that pain and suffering and didn't lose faith and didn't lose their determination to find the answer. Really difficult time for most people is at the end of a truly dysfunctional relationship. And many times in that kind of pain, people not only discover their faith or become reacquainted with their faith or become more solidified in their faith, but many times they also learn such valuable experience and gain such wisdom that they themselves are forever changed and for the better, despite the suffering and hardship that they had to go through. Many times, suffering, especially how we respond to the suffering, can have a profound influence on our character development. It's how we suffer that counts. How we suffer that really matters. If we do it with love and understanding, it can lead to a real resurrection, to a real rebirth. Now, this is going to be an interesting year. I'd kind of like to hear from you about what you are hoping for this new year. But I'd like to share with you some of my thoughts, too. If you want to share some of yours, give me a call at 501-258-8326. That's 501-258-8326. I want to share with you some of my thoughts for the new year and what my hopes are. My first and most fondest hope is that we come to appreciate how much character matters. Because only when we do might we take a serious look at all those aspects of our culture that impact our character development in a negative way. You know, there's a vicious cycle that's been going on for many years. I talk about this in the workshops that I do all across the country. And by the way, there'll be some information posted very soon on the Vine, V-Y-N-E, education website and on my own website at drgeorgesimon.com or manipulative-people.com about next year's upcoming workshops. As I advise folks in these workshops, there's this vicious cycle that's been taking place for several years now. And that is that as more and more character-impaired people populate the society, those values and institutions and other aspects of society and culture that at one time fostered healthy character development, those things erode. And as those things erode, more and more character impaired individuals appear and populate the society. So it is a classic vicious cycle, with one feeding the other. Bad character shaping culture, and corrupted culture shaping character. Back and forth and back and forth. And we've been in this downward spiral for many years. We had the greatest generation, where because of necessity and in great pain and hardship, character had to emerge to save us. We had this time during the greatest generation that brought us a period of what can rightfully be called greatness, because we were living up to some of our best ideals. Then we got complacent. Then we got indulgent. Then we rebelled I remember it well. I am a child of the 60s. I remember how we tried to redefine everything, rewrite all the rules. And we did so because we were rightfully angry at those in power for lying, cheating, and killing innocent brothers. So we were ticked off. We said, we're mad as hell. We're not going to take this anymore. And besides, being young and naive and brilliant, as all young folks think they are, we decided that we knew better. We had that arrogance that comes along with adolescence. And so we did. We rewrote the rules. We redefined things. We even redefined what it takes, how you establish a healthy, intimate relationship. We used to have this extensive vetting period, and families of integrity weighed in. All that went by the wayside. We did a lot of things that, looking back, it probably seemed like a good idea at the time, but they weren't really good for our social structure. And so certain things began to erode. I often use in my presentations at my workshops, I also use the example of what's changed dramatically in the world of professional sports, because there was a time when it was more commonly regarded, it was a social norm and a value, it was more commonly regarded that someone in the public's eye playing a professional sport, especially a revered professional sport, was looked upon as a role model, and therefore had to be of a certain character. And if you weren't of a certain character, you weren't getting on the team. It didn't matter how much talent you had. It didn't matter how much money you could make for the organization with your talent. What mattered is that you weren't going to besmirch the good name of the organization with your behavior. Those days went by the wayside, and they're slowly, perhaps, coming back. Perhaps. But we've always struggled with this issue. If character were easy, everybody would do it, and there would be no trouble. There would be no discord. There would be no family feuds or family dysfunction. There would be no betrayal. There'd be no divorce. If it were easy to be a person of character, everyone would do it. There'd be harmony. There'd be justice. It's not easy. It's not easy to do the work that it takes to forge decency of character, and it's not easy to maintain that character in the face of all the temptations that we have, especially the temptations that we have to indulge ourselves and to express ourselves in various ways that are not very respectful. We have this wonderful gift of freedom here, and we are free to abuse it. And we have. In fact, we don't know what we have. We don't see its value. This is a precious, precious gift, this life is. And it came from somewhere, from something much bigger, much more awesome than we can even imagine. We're talking vastness on a scale, complexity on a scale that is just impossible to fathom. And if our heart responds with gratitude for this miracle, then we will conduct ourselves in certain ways. We will necessarily conduct ourselves in certain ways. So my hope for the coming year is that every heart finds it within their heart to start with themselves in a change of heart and make a commitment to do their part in making this world a better place. We don't have much time. We've got to do a much better job of loving ourselves and each other and loving this great gift and its giver. That's my hope for 2018 and for the years to come. And to do my part, I will continue to write. I'm going to be putting the finishing touches on the 10 Commandments of Character, How to Lead a Significant Life, my last book, also with Dr. Kathy Armistead. It will have a much different bent than it originally had in its first draft when it is finally released. And I hope it will serve as a fitting complement to my other books, In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, Character Disturbance, The Phenomenon of Our Age, The Judas Syndrome, and How Did We End Up Here? And I'll continue to write, and I hope you'll visit my blog at manipulative-people.com or drgeorgesimon.com. That's drgeorgesimon.com. And avail yourself of all the online articles there. And I hope you'll also tune into this program, Character Matters, every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time on UCY.TV, where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time. So as you listen to the theme song again as we close, remember its premise. Freedom that we enjoy, the freedom that we enjoy and character are interdependent, completely interdependent. For one to survive, you have to have the other. And all that matters is that we recognize that character indeed matters and that we do our part to work within our own hearts of what needs to change there, and then we will be a catalyst for changing the world. With that, I'm Dr. George Simon. Thank you for listening. I'll see you again next week on another edition of Character.
From the shorelines to the prairies, to the city